Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us again. Some of you may recognize that old tune from 1932 by Ted Weems' orchestra, Heartaches. And jazz musicians look for obscure selections. Red Garland for Miles Davis, found by Blackbird. Who would ever think of that? Banjo tune. But made it hip. Dexter Gordon, who knew the lyrics to many tunes, heard a lot of music, he was around that time, recognized this, and his rendition of Heartaches to me is the hippest one I heard in jazz. It's on the record Blue Note Go. Dexter Gordon, phenomenal rhythm section, Sonny Clark, Butch Warren, and Billy Higgins. And it brings back memories when I played with Dexter at Montmartre. Musically, it was phenomenal, great musicians playing, but also I didn't know about business then, which I've learned later. Montmartre was a hip place, but it did not have a marquee in front like neon lights. It had a very plain marquee, chalkboard. On it you write Dexter Gordon, below Larry Vuckovich, and then bass and drums. If I knew in those days, I would have taken a photo. What a great memory. But later I learned on my website, if you go to Jazz Gallery, you will see some great things that I saved from Europe. Jazz workshop in Vienna with Philly Joe Jones, Slide Hampton, and other places. So you learn little by little. There is nothing wrong being a good businessman and musician. Well, Miles Davis knew about that. So that was that. Now, the other important announcement, in my email I mentioned music is the key in these presentations. At the same time, the importance of philosophical anecdotes passed on by the greats, it's important. It rounds out the music and completes the picture. And I will tell you more of them as we go along. Here is a great memory when I played at a club on Bush Street in 1961 or 62. A DuPont family son, Michael DuPont, owned a club called Neve. And in Palo Alto, he had another one. I'll tell you about it. So I played with the wonderful bass player John Mosier and his trio, playing intermissions opposite Duke Ellington for 2 weeks. I'll play the tune Caravan. I have some stories to tell you about that and some comments that Duke made. Here is Caravan. That tune was written by Duke's Puerto Rican trombonist Juan Tizol, and ahead of its time. To my memory, maybe the first one that connected jazz with North African and Asian scales of Arabic music. With those scales also, the other important element is Gypsy Roma people. Some of those scales are known as Gypsy scales. Anyway, I was going to San Francisco State at a time where the great John Handy was there. He was helping us with music. I got a call from the bass player John Mosier. He said, I'm doing a 2-week gig opposite Duke Ellington Orchestra on the same bill, playing intermissions. And boy, what an opportunity. On the opening night, the saxophonist Brew Moore, Lester Young disciple, played with us, and we played a blues before Duke Ellington came on. On my solo, the Duke's trumpet section with, I don't know if Cootie Williams was there, but Willie Cook, the bebop player, was in the trumpet section, and they were riffing behind me. So when we finished, the Duke took the mic and he paid me a nice indirect compliment. He said, if you're wondering, my trumpet player, why they were riffing behind the pianist, well, he said he's a swinging pianist. They tried to drown him out. And what an opportunity I blew. I was shy in those days, standing next to Duke. I wish I could have it again. I would ask him questions and talk to him. Little by little, when I met Dexter in following years after that, couple of years, you know, I got more relaxed and less shy and, you know, got to ask questions and stuff. So, but I blew that opportunity. Anyway, Duke was known for his phenomenal language of color, of expressions. For example, as the bassist in a band would start playing, Aaron Bell, he would walk, and Duke would say, Aaron Bell, the basic melodic contour. I mean, what a description. And then Sam Woodward would play the brushes and introduce them. Sam Woodyard, the skins of primitivity. And the astronauts were taking off in those early days from Cape Canaveral, sorry the pronunciation. And Duke talked about the language. He said that was another kind of a pad. The musician's place was called a pad, but the astronauts used a launching pad. Anyway, he came up with all these things. And the other interesting thing, in Duke's band, you had two great musicians. They were light, they weren't dark. Valve trombonist Cootie Williams and Willie Smith, who played with, before that, Jimmy Lunsford band. So these two guys kept alternating between Duke's band and Harry James' band. Those were the times. At the times, Harry James had them regularly, but because they were light, they could pass by. A musician in New York told me when I was living there, he said he was in Harry James' band when those two cats were there. They played, I might have said this story before, but we have so many new viewers. They played at a white resort and everybody was swimming, and the white cats got darker, and the manager came up to Harry James. He said, I understand you have two black musicians, you have to get rid of them. Harry James did it this way. He said, you know what, if you can spot them, you get rid of them. And that was the end of that. And speaking of that stupid racial stuff which happened, you know, we are all children of God from the universe, same family. But those were the days. When the great trumpet player Roy Eldridge was playing in Paris, as many great musicians in those days, they stayed in top hotels. The wonderful impresario Norman Granz made sure of that. Anyway, Roy Eldridge is at a lobby of a hotel in Paris, and a white southern woman comes up to him. "I didn't know you boys were allowed to stay here." And he simply answered, "Madam, this is not Paris, Mississippi." And that was the end of that. Before I go on to the next tune, I'll tell you a story about it, but I have to announce I'm very thankful to Herb Mittler and the Palo Alto Jazz Alliance. They are spreading so many emails about great musicians streaming. In these difficult times, people can hear some wonderful music. Thank you, Harvey and the Palo Alto Jazz Alliance, for this. And also, Harvey refreshed me about Charlie Parker's birthday on Saturday, the 29th, and I'll tell you another story about that. So on the 29th Saturday, I'm going to do some music from Charlie Parker. Anyway, now, here is a tune by Jimmy Van Heusen. What a composer. This is called "Oh You Crazy Moon," and how it came, I'm walking around the other night, the full moon big is blasting. Let me play "Oh You Crazy Moon." Beautiful tune, and here it is. I recorded this in a bolero tempo with Akira Tana, great bassist Larry Grenadier, and a drummer, Akira, and Hector Lugo on percussion. I wish I had some congas, for this, but here is "Oh You Crazy Moon," and I'll state it basically first and go into a bolero tempo. before I tell you about this tune, I did mention next week, instead of Saturday, I'll be at the Piedmont Piano, wonderful store, and they are doing live concerts without the audience streaming. And I'm playing, as I mentioned, without any exaggeration. This is a phenomenal young guitarist, Kai Lyons. Since I've been in Frisco area, forgive if I use Frisco, I mean it in fun, you know, because I watch a lot of movies and stuff, San Francisco. Eddie Duran was one of the greats, and there was a few others, but this guy is going to remain as one of the top from this area. Kai Lyons, amazing young man. And next Sunday it's August 16th, and today I spoke with a good friend, wonderful pianist, Sally Hannah Ryan, who teaches in Berkeley. During this time she's got students, she got music going, and she said, do you know what August 16th is? I said, no, Bill Evans' birthday, and we're doing the music of Bill Evans. That's next Sunday. And also day before, birthday of Oscar Peterson. So we're going to play some of that and other things. Now, what is the meaning, Oh You Crazy Moon? Well, besides the wonderful music recorded by Chet Baker and Mel Torme of this tune, I'm looking at that full moon, and there is truth to the word lunatic. Because a lot of people sometimes say, when something weird happens, say it must be full moon. And how I prove that, I played at the Hyatt, Grand Hyatt Union Square from 1978 till 84, before I moved to New York 5 years. Every full moon I made an observation. I'm telling you, things happened that were out of ordinary. Now, full moon to me is no problem. Gives me good energy, but people did weird things. And here is something interesting that happened during that time. One night on a full moon, I have a lot of memories, and like this is one you can't forget. Two ladies are sitting together talking, signaling to other people, they're keeping to themselves. And I played some nice standards. There was no reaction until I played something from a late Broadway show, Cats. All of a sudden they made a yell, cheer, okay. On a break I stand by them, and one lady's talking to the other, looking her in the eyes, not looking to the audience. All of a sudden she lifts her skirt way high, few seconds, without signaling to people, and then drops it down. After that, they get up and leave. And the waitress standing next to me, she said, did you see that? It happened like a flash, but she didn't look around getting attention, but she knew while lifting her skirt, somebody saw it, and that was her kick, full moon. Anyway, that's the story, but I would like to tell you something. Chet Baker, I got to play with him in San Francisco, and before he passed away in New York at a nice club, the Whippoorwill. Had a great rhythm section with Ben Riley on drums. 3 months before he died, he looked terrible. He was like, he died, maybe he was 58, he could have been 80 or 85. He lived a wild life, but you know what was interesting? He sounded great. He sang great. He didn't change, he stayed true to the music. Now, Miles Davis, who played wonderfully to me in the 50s with Train, with Gil Evans, Pure, all of a sudden he wanted to change with the times, which is all right to be creative, but sometimes for me, things weren't always musically copacetic or moving, you know. He made a lot of money, and give you an example. He mentions in his book Charlie Rice, a great drummer who recorded with Chet Baker 2 albums in mid 60s. And Charlie was my drummer when I played in Philly. And Charlie didn't pull punches. He said it the way it was. Charlie knew Miles, played with him, and he made suits for him. So Charlie, if you excuse the vernacular, said to Miles, "Miles, why are you playing all that shit? Oh, the people like it and it's good money." Well, that's what Miles did. But Chet Baker, to me, never changed. Played the pure music. Anyway, little story on Moon. Oh, you crazy Moon. And I'll tell you more story about this. Maybe 10 years ago or less, 8 years ago, my son and I went to Norway. There's a wonderful lady saxophone player from Oslo, Bodil Niska. Bodil, are you watching? She has a beautiful sound. She has a lot of recognition, beautiful tone, and she wanted me to play with her at a festival in one of the fjords, west coast of Norway, Augustsund. And my son and I flew to Copenhagen first. We saw our old friend Palle Mikkelborg, who played with, who wrote for Miles an album, Aurora, a great trumpet player. We hung out with him. After that, we're taking a plane to Stockholm, and I'm falling asleep, and this melody comes to me like an old-fashioned waltz. And I luckily had a pocket recorder. Otherwise, in my dreams or at night, I would think of tunes that would be gone by the morning. I recorded this, and I call it Scandinavian Waltz. This you can also find on my website under discography. It's on the album that I hope to reissue because it got a lot of play. It's called The Street Scene, title where I played the title track from film noir Street Scene, but Scandinavian Waltz features Akira Tana and Larry Grenadier. And it's kind of in the style of Bill Evans. Bill Evans spent a lot of time in Scandinavia and he loved it. Also, I'm dedicating this song to some Scandinavian great musicians, Palle Mikkelborg, Bent Yedi, Copenhagen, Karin Krog from Norway, great singer. And I forgot to mention when we stopped after Copenhagen, we went to Stockholm before Norway and we saw our good friend that I mentioned in the past streaming, Ronnie Gardner, who is doing great over there. And Lars Niklasson, a Swedish cat who lived in San Francisco from 58 to 60. He knows all the clubs, Black Hawk, the Workshop, and one of his favorites was Copacabana on Broadway, just before the tunnel, before you go to Vallejo. Latin club that featured ex-Cal Tjader people, Manuel Duran, Benny Velarde, great music. So, hello to Lars in Stockholm. So, now a little humor to this. You heard me talk about Mel Brooks. Well, I thought of something. It inspired me. Many of you must have seen Charlie Chaplin, The Great Dictator, where he makes fun of Hitler. Hitler in one scene is looking at a globe, is conquering the world, and then he has the globe in the form of a ball. He feels so power hungry and successful. He's kicking the ball, using his head. All of a sudden, the balloon ball explodes and he cries, and that's what happened. The whole thing exploded in his face. Now, my story is, since I see so many films, I'm imagining in a comic way Führer and Eva dancing on a map of Scandinavia in ice. Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, they're skating and skating. All of a sudden, the ice breaks and they fall in. Anyway, that's my story. Now, some selections on this program. I wanted to make a point which some of you know Hollywood, the movies and the songs they had from those days, unbeatable. And also what you may not know, two great actors, Rhonda Fleming, who was known as the Queen of Technicolor, made film noirs. She was a good actress, but the musician who worked with Harry James in New York told me he toured with her. She was a first-rate singer. You gotta hear her version, Don't Take Your Love From Me, arranged by a jazz arranger. Beautiful, pure voice, a real vocalist. Now, I'll play Don't Take Your Love From Me and I'll tell you more about it. gentleman who wrote this tune, you might have heard his name, Henry Nemo. He was known as a character actor in some films. He was known as the hipster who spoke in a jazz language. He had a big band at one time, but he wrote the lyrics and the music, and another tune I'm sure you know, "'Tis Autumn." And as I mentioned, the importance of the lyrics, check out the sensitivity and some of the lyrics. Tear a star from out the sky, and the sky feels blue. Tear a petal from a rose, and the rose weeps too. Take your heart away from mine, and surely break. My life is yours to make, so please keep the spark awake. Would you take the wings from birds so that they can't fly? Would you take the ocean's roar and leave just a sigh? All this your heart won't let you do. This is what I beg of you. Please don't take your love from me. Poetry. And once again, Barry Harris said, standards are perfect. Clear, beautiful melodic line, harmonic. These people were on another level. That's it. And let's see. Next is an interesting story. It's a tune by Bud Powell. And let me take a sip 1 second. If you're wondering, this is Serbian great coffee, light roast combined with Lavazza, old Italian brand from 1895 that my friend Judy Kopanic, who helped produce one of the albums, introduced me. So it's a mix of decaf and coffee. Thank you. My first wife, Alexi's mother, who passed away on our honeymoon in 1969, we brought my Volvo from San Francisco, put it on a boat. I had to finish the engagement in Munich, stayed there for 1.5 years, and we're traveling on the great French passenger liner Ile-de-France. They had a music room called the Ravel, Maurice Ravel room, beautiful piano. I'm playing there, and then I noticed behind me a black pianist who played a trick on me. First, he liked my playing. He said, sounds good. Then I asked him, what is your name? I asked him, do you play? Oh, he said, I play a little. I said, go ahead. He starts playing phenomenal Bud Powell bebop. My God, his name was, I asked him, Walter Davis Jr. with Art Blakey, Donald Byrd. Do you remember Dizzy Gillespie's World Statesman Band when he toured the Middle East, South America? Walter Davis in his young 20s was the pianist. That's how great he was. We became good friends. He stayed in Munich for a while. That was the cat. And this tune, Bouncing with Bud, was recorded in late 40s, I believe. Young Sonny Rollins, Fats Navarro, Roy Haynes, and maybe Tommy Potter on bass. Bouncing with Bud. Some of these I haven't played in a long time. I need to do them a little more. And my left hand is feeling better. I've been dealing for 2 months. I lifted something and what's the word? Pulled, but it's doing better. I'm getting some treatment because I want to get it real strong so I can do more strides piano. So I thank God for everything. I should mention again, thanks to many of you for your donations. I really appreciate it. And main thing is for watching and spreading the word. I understand more people are finding out about it. And some good friends, new friends I met from Scandinavia. One of them is a filmmaker, Roland Williams, and another one, Tori Marklund. Roland is interested in doing a video because what you're doing, he said, I haven't seen it anywhere. Comments, stories, and music, so we'll see what happens. So let's see what's next. Back to Hollywood. Many of you know the great actor George Sanders, phenomenal actor. He was born in St. Petersburg, Russia. He went with his family who did business in South Africa. He came back and he went to Hollywood and films like Rebecca, Foreign Correspondent, and he was known mainly for playing CAD, a user, in the film written by, what's the word? The wonderful French author Guy de Maupassant. It was called The Affairs of Bellamy. That was the name he had, Bellamy. He came to Paris penniless, and his friend in the movie, Carradine, I forgot his first name, you know the actor Carradine, saw him a long time ago, and he said, I have to leave my newspaper assignment to go to a warmer climate, to North Africa. And George Sanders said, I don't know anything about it. You can learn about it. So he showed me how to write a little bit, and then George Sanders in the movie develops a gossip column where he knows the importance of mentioning names, making people into a higher position, breaking some and all that. He real cad. He meets rich women, he goes from one to another, and see the movie, The Affairs of Bellamy, doesn't end well. So George was known, but how many of you know that he was a first-rate vocalist like Rhonda Fleming? He recorded an LP, Songs for a Lovely Lady, and September song he sings, The Very Thought of You, a true voice. Go to YouTube, check George Sanders Sings. This is Kurt Weill, September song. Yeah, beautiful tune, timeless September song. So when you get a chance, check out George Sanders and both Rhonda Fleming. And an example, another how great rounded Hollywood actors were. Eddie Marshall, the great drummer who passed away, left us a few years ago, was raving when he did a show with Donald O'Connor singing in the rain. Donald started, maybe he was less than 10 years old in films, dancing and singing. He said this guy was such a talent. Whatever he did, full of music and rhythm. Those were the days, you know. And yeah, but I'm so glad to have these memories. If you go to my website, look for a document, Fascinating Jazz Life, things just kept opening up. And as Harvey Mittler reminded me, August 29th, Charlie Parker's 100th birthday centennial, this brought memories. When I came back from New York, and they're going to do it again, WKCR at the end of August will do a 3-day marathon, music of Charlie Parker, August 29th, Lester Young, Prez, August 27th. So I'll have some Charlie Parker stories then. And when I came back, I told Pete Douglas from the Bach Dancing. Pete was open. If you had an idea, it was not a matter of ego, or this is not my idea. No, he believed in it. He had us play 5 years in a row at the Bach Dancing at Dynamite. Great band. Jules Broussard, Noel Jukes, Josh Workman guitar, Nat Johnson bass, Harold Jones and drums, Luis Romero on conga. And 5 years, music of Bird, Prez, and Basie. So thank you, Barbara Riching, the daughter. She's keeping it going. She has streaming concerts from there. And another memory before I conclude with this piece by John Hendricks. He recorded this Harry Sweets Edison piece, centerpiece, slow blues, but a very hip tune. I got a call from a great percussionist, hand percussionist. His first name, the American name was Ray, could have been Daniels, I'm not sure, but he changed it to Big Black, big gentleman over 6 feet, one of the greatest ever hand percussionists. And what happened, we played with John at the Trident in Sausalito. I wish the management, they blew it. Our producer from the album Something Special, Dan Smith, was talking to them when they remodeled. Have some publicity, new Trident, bring back the old days. Well, they didn't listen, they blew it. Anyway, Big Black and I played with John Hendricks there. And we reconnected after 50 years, and we did a concert at the Blue Note. He's in great shape, he's a vegetarian, he's 80. He called to say hello. And Big Black, if you didn't know, when Muhammad Ali went to Zaire to fight, he brought Big Black to help him train. While he was training, he was playing the rhythms. And he's a real cat. You know, in today where you have division, sometimes during this unfortunate time, you know, tense, some people on one side, other. Big Black is a real cat. To him, you're a brother. That's all. He called the other day, and we hope to reconnect. And here is the great tune Centerpiece and Red Garland chords. Great cat who showed me these chords. give a little credit again now to Miles Davis. No matter what other stuff he did, in the early days in particular, he was pure to the music, and Miles made a statement. No matter how hip we play, we have to always include some blues, part of the music and the feeling and all that. So blues is always with us, and sometimes people have a statement, a saying, when you're trying to figure out before a gig what you're going to play. Well, you can't go wrong if you play a blues. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again. Thanks to all of you for watching. And next Sunday, I will send an email, August 16th, at the Piedmont Piano. Thank you, Jim Callahan, the owner, for keeping streaming going there. They just bought a first-rate video system, sound system to stream. And I will be playing, from what I understand, 7.5-foot great piano from Italy, Fazioli. Thank you, bonsoir, doviđenja, laka noć, thank you.